We're going to open the Town of Fairfield Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for April 16th, 2026. Before we open the public hearing, we're going to vote on approving the minutes from Thursday, March 5th, 2026. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Right, and a second?
Second.
Jane, any discussion on the minutes? No? Okay, can we vote to approve? Rachel?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Jane? Yes. Jeff?
Yes.
And I'm also yes. The minutes are approved. Okay, now we're going to call to order the public portion of our meeting. I'm just going to explain how we're going to run the meeting. When a matter is called, the applicant or his or her agent will present the case. At this time, originals of any petition should be given to the clerk, Tara. Copies of the petition should then be distributed to the board members. After the applicant's presented, all interested persons in favor of the application will come forward and speak. After those in favor have spoken, those in opposition will be heard. The applicant or his or her agent may then address the comments made by those in opposition. Second, this meeting is being recorded as required by state law. It's important that we're able to understand the recording. Therefore, only one person may speak at a time, and anyone who wishes to speak must come forward, speak clearly, as our recording device is located in the ceiling. You must always give your name and address. We welcome all comments of all interested person, but we must exercise discretion in making sure that your comments are on point. And if you're too far off point, we reserve the right to restrict your comments at any time. Third, applications and interested persons may remain in attendance after the hearing for the executive session to find out what was decided, or you may call the zoning office tomorrow morning. Fourth, if an application for a waiver is granted, the waiver is not valid if the notice is not recorded. The applicant must bring a check in the amount of $70 made out to the town of Fairfield to the zoning office on Wednesday or later following the meeting for proper recording of notice. Any waiver involving construction requires an as-built prior to an issuance of certification of zoning compliance and certificate of occupancy. So that being said, what we do say is once we hear you, I believe we have 8 items on our agenda, 8 items on our agenda today. So once we hear your item, you're more than welcome to leave. Or if you want to stay, you're more than welcome to do that. And everyone can just make sure their phones ringers are off. Okay, we are ready to move on to our first item, which is general docket number 1, which is 115 Verna Hill Road, map 173, petition parcel 13. Petition of Patrick and Alyssa Polster for a variance to the zoning regulations section 3.4.1 to reduce the sideline setback from 30 feet, currently 30.1, proposing 21.7, permission to construct a 2-story side addition premises AAA zone.
Chair, members of the commission, Chris Russo with Russo and Rizzio LLC, Office of Attendance, Esco Hill Road, Fairfield, here on behalf of the applicant, Patrick Polster, who's with me today. This is for 115 Verna Hill Road. It is in the residence AAA zone, as stated. It's located at the corner, you can see there on the site plan, Verna Hill Road and Greenfield Hill Road. As stated in the call, the applicant's seeking a variance to demolish the existing single-story attached garage and replace it with a proposed 2-story attached garage. So basically extending for an additional second bay from existing conditions. This work requires a reduction of the minimum required side setback from 30 feet to 21.7 feet on a property that's legally non-compliant as to street frontage on Verna Hill Road. It's compliant along Greenfield Hill Road, but not on Verna Hill Road. And so, as you can see here, just to kind of orient you here on the site plan, Greenfield Hill Road, Verna Hill Road. This is the main entrance into the dwelling. It has a parking area back here. There's an existing 1-car garage here. So the proposal is to demolish that garage that's located right here and construct this, this garage right here. So just to orient you there. So the regulations require 200 feet of lot frontage, and this property has 187 feet on Vernon Hill Road. So the property's 13 feet deficient in frontage, and the requested setback encroachment, which is 8.3 feet, is less than that existing nonconformity. So were the frontage 200 feet on Vernon Hill Road, we wouldn't need a variance. But because it's shrunken like that, it drives the variance. But we're not extending to the full extent. We're less than the nonconformity. As I said, the house is oriented towards and is entered from Vernon Hill Road, which is the safer and I think more appropriate access point. Those of you who may know that area, Greenfield Hill Road has significantly more traffic. A lot of people use it, I do, to access the Greenfield Hill area. I know folks that use it a lot to get to Patterson and things like that. So Vernon Hill Road is the less traveled, I think the more safe location to access this property. Because there are two street frontages, the western side of the house is actually already on the setback line. So the southern portion of the house that you see there on the plan, it's already right on the setback line. It's a particular problem in the AAA zone. Street line setback on a corner lot hurts more in the AAA zones because actually in most of your other zones, the second street line setback is reduced from the primary street line setback. So for instance, in the R2 zone, the primary street line setback is 30, but the secondary street line setback is 22 feet. So it's not, one's 30, one's 22. In the R3 zone, the primary is 40 feet, but the secondary is 30 feet. So you can get some relief when you have a corner lot when you're in the other zones. But in the AAA, not only do you get by far the most significant setback from a street line at 60 feet, which is what it is for AAA zone, but it's 60 feet on both street lines. So it's particularly impactful when you have a corner lot in the AAA zone. I bring this up because if this property was not a corner lot and this Greenfield Hill Road side was actually a side lot line, it would only be a 30 feet setback, which is a drastic difference. 30-foot setback difference there. And that would be plenty of room to accommodate this addition. But again, the site's a corner lot, it's hampered by it, and it's subject to these two very large street line setbacks. And just so you know, this application isn't asking for more than what's entitled in terms of building area. It's not even close. We're not overcrowding the site. Even with the addition, it's still less than 2/3 of the permitted floor area for this lot, and it's about 60% of the building coverage allowed. So that's not the issue. It's just that it's disadvantaged by being the corner lot, and the fact the problem's compounded by the fact that it's too narrow on Vernon Hill Road. The other thing I think you'll notice just looking at the site plan, and you'll see better when I show you an aerial, but you can still see it here, is that this site has an odd yin-yang shape with its abutting property. 63 Vernon Hill Road is compliant as a street frontage, but it's to the site's disadvantage because it shrinks down our frontage along Vernon Hill Road. But then it flips. So you can see as you get towards the rear, the site widens, and our neighbor 63 Vernon Hill Road narrows. But unfortunately for us, the house is in that narrow section. And again, that's what's driving this variance. It's not for the whole addition. It's only about 25% of the proposed addition is non-conforming, but it's what we would need to, have a second garage bay. But I do think it's one of the reasons why this side of the house is the more appropriate side for the garage addition. On the other side, if, for instance, we had put it closer to Greenfield Hill, the whole addition would be non-compliant, 100% of it. Only 25% with what we're doing. And its location is pretty controlled because, obviously you can see if you move the addition forward closer to Vernon Hill Road, that really does nothing because you have, again, it's the same. So you would have a sideline setback if you did that. Moving it towards the back doesn't really do anything either because that pinch really continues to the back of the house. In addition, which you might not be able to see unless you're looking closer at it, is our septic tank is behind the proposed addition. And then on top of that, there is a stairwell that you can see because there's kind of a smaller connection here, and then it gets to the garage. There's actually a stairwell right there that leads down to the basement. And we checked with the building inspector, and that egress needs to go outside. It can't go, we couldn't, for instance, pull the garage in closer and have it go on the inside. I guess it's for fire code reasons. So, because we looked at that. So it has to go to the outside. That's why there's kind of this bump connection, and then there's the actual garage, which is the same way it's laid out now. So again, I think the addition is placed in a natural location where you would expect for this property. I will also note, if you don't have a copy, I can submit it. I have copies of it. We have a petition in favor of the application from the surrounding property owners, all the surrounding property owners, including our neighbor at 63 Verna Hill Road, who shares this side property line. So they would be the most impacted by it. There's also, I'll show you some pictures of the site. There's a mature evergreen buffer that is between these properties that will remain, and actually it's going to be expanded on a little bit. But I'll show that to you when I get to pictures. Just to show you the architecturals, and for continuity, my client did some digging and made sure he hired the same architect that originally designed this, so it kind of stays within character. But just to show you, there's a view from the front. You can see the new garage there on the left. So this is the first floor, it just shows the garage, but you can also see this connection entryway into here, which is an entryway that's there now, as well as the stairs that would lead to the second floor. And you'll see, this is the second floor. Stairwell comes up, then this is over the garage. There's a guest room, and then an office. You already saw the elevation from the first one, but just to show you, there it is from the front. You can see the two-bay garage on the left, and then from the side, show the final view. So that's the addition there. You're looking at the side addition, or side of the addition right here. Okay. So again, just, maintain the character of what's there existing, but just extending to a second bay. Next, I'll just show you again aerials of the surrounding neighborhood. This is the GIS map. There's 115 Verna Hill Road. And one of the things I tried to point out and that you could see is if you look at the aerial map, the non-conforming side setbacks are a norm. That same neighbor, that 63 Verna Hill Road that I was talking about, they're only 6 feet from their side property line setback. One important thing, because of that, even after the addition, these neighboring dwellings, 63 Verna Hill Road and then my client's dwelling, will still be about 125 feet apart. So because that's skewed way over to this side. So it's well in excess of the side setback standards in the sense of, the regulations intend for dwellings like that to at least be 60 feet away from each other, 30 feet on one side, 30 feet on the other. And this will be, more than double that. But you can also just see, looking at this, we called out a few of them, but you can see a lot of side setback nonconformities in this area. There's 17, 18 feet. There's 28, so it's in all this range. This one right here at 235 Mine Hill Road is also extremely close, and that's just Greenfield Hill. There's my house is just like that. It's shoved into a corner like this one here. So non-conforming side setback is not breaking any type of uniformity in the area. That's just kind of Greenfield Hill. So and then I'll just show you these pictures. So this is from Verna Hill Road, looking directly at the site. You can see off in the distance, I have a closer picture, but right there. But this is the one-car garage. So this is what would be coming down and expanded over another bay and then a second story. The other thing you can see is there's the mature evergreen buffer there. And I'll show you another angle of that to see how well that kind of blocks the neighboring property. This is behind the existing garage, and you can see there's that stairwell that leads down to the cellar that we need to leave to access the outside. And then these are shots. I just wanted to give shots looking kind of to what would be the closest property most impacted by this. So this is our neighbor. Again, I'm taking this from Verna Hill Road. The house is all the way over here, and then they have two outbuildings, a garage and like a barn type building, I think it is, that are over here in between their house and my client's house. This is shifted over a little bit. You can see where his garage is now, and then that garage that they have on the neighboring property. This is from basically that entrance door looking towards the neighbor's property. You can see it's completely screened by that buffer. And then I went beyond the trees into the backyard. And it's tough to see with all the foliage, but tried to show there's these two outbuildings, and then the main dwelling is far, again, 125 feet apart after this addition. So with that, just to restate hardship, again, it derives from the frontage along Verna Hill Road that puts a pinch on this portion of the lot. Our 8.7 feet into the side setback is less than the 13-foot nonconformity. There's the further hindrance of it being a corner lot. And, again, the requested variance is not the result of an oversized building. It's not lot coverage, it's not floor area, it's side setback. I think it's a logical location for this addition, and I believe we still meet the intent of the regulations in terms of buffer when you consider the distance that's between the two dwellings. We have the support from our abutting neighbors, and with that, I think we respectfully request your approval of the application. Happy to answer any questions.
So I think I know the answer, but I'm looking at the zoning compliance summary in the survey, and it says the minimum lot frontage is 596 feet.
Along Greenfield Hill Road.
But that's not material to even the application. It should be 185 feet. And why is it? It's just a simple mistake, but why is it there?
Well, I think he's right to put in Greenfield Hill Road and put that frontage in there. Let's talk about 596.
But you don't have 180.
So
there's nowhere you have 185, which is the issue with. It's your hardship and it's why you're here, and it's not anywhere in the summary of dimensions.
Well, I still think he would be required to put that in as for the zoning data table, just to show what the total frontage is. And and that's why I'm calling it out as just specifically because, it gets its frontage on Greenfield Hill Road, but the house isn't even oriented that way. It's oriented this way, like it was a regular lot that was fronting on Verna Hill Road.
Right.
And that's what's
the house frontage is on Verna Hill, and that's 185, and it's just a very confusing.
Yeah, he could have put an asterisk on it or something maybe and put that on there just to show the distinguish. Can I speak to that?
No, not yet. More questions from the board?
Yes. Mr. Deckers, is that typical on a corner lot to just pick the arbitrarily the long side for the,
To show the compliance of what they're showing here is for lot frontage, yes, on a corner lot. But what they sometimes will do, and I was just checking, they'll have an asterisk down at the bottom to indicate the second street line is X, to identify that, in which case that's more glaring if you had an asterisk down there. But in the same token, just by looking at the survey, you can see the number is identified on there as being 185. But showing that one of the lines is compliant is uniform through most of what the surveyors will put on.
so if it is uniform and compliant,
The secondary,
We'll let,
Well, I was going to say the fact that the secondary street is not compliant with the 200.
It's my sense that looking at a grid like this, we should see what the application is about. And we don't see it on here, and it's just, take it with you and next time, but it's just,
Yeah, and I think if this was creating the lot, it would 100% have to be on there because that's the variance you would be asked. I'd be asking you for a lot frontage variance. So I think he just, doesn't have the asterisk on there to indicate that. But I could, we could easily, if it was approved, we could add that in there for the final plan.
may I ask a question? So the corner lot's created by Vernon Hill Road and Greenfield Hill Road, but where you're looking for the variance is not part of the corner lot, it's the other street. It's the neighbor.
Right.
So why, can you help?
Because I went through that argument, yeah.
Yeah,
Let me explain.
Try to do it again.
I'll do it again, yeah, I'll focus in on it. Okay, so
I'm trying.
if this setback right here has to be 60 feet.
Right.
And this setback has to be 60 feet. If there was a private house right here instead of Greenfield Hill Road, this would be a side lot line, and the setback would be 30 feet. So it would cut this in half. Then he could easily go over here, because this addition is not 30 feet wide. He could easily take it and just plop it over here and he'd be compliant. But it's not. It's a corner lot, and he's got, what is the biggest setback in our town, which is the front lot, the street line setback in a AAA zone. He's got it not once, but twice. And
But
so that's
you
really.
asked us to put it on that side, on the Greenfield Hill side.
But see, I'm trying to reduce the variance as much as the variance request as much as possible. And that's why I was trying to say, if I put it over here, I'm asking you for a 30-foot variance, 100% of the addition. This is close. 75% of this addition is compliant. It's just this remaining 25% that we need the variance for to get the second garage bay. I mean, and if we didn't, the issue with that would be you couldn't have a second garage bay. It's not wide enough for it. It's going to remain being a single car garage. But I think given the fact, that preserves, because this is open when you drive by it. It's, and I should have the picture. This is nice. It's open. It's beautiful. Where the neighboring houses and the fact we have that evergreen buffer, I think this is the least impactful to the surrounding neighborhood. Clearly neighbors felt the same way. And again, my client's looking at even extending that buffer even further. So for that reason, we located it over here.
Okay, thank you.
Always trying to minimize requests as we can.
Is there any other questions from board members on this application?
just trying, you wrote something in here about one street is more traveled than the other, and
Yeah, we don't have a traffic study, but I can just tell you, he lives there every single day, and this is around where I live. This Greenfield Hill Road, a lot of people cut through here to get up into Greenfield Hill. And it just sees a lot more traffic than Vernon Hill Road. Vernon Hill Road actually in the section 2 is relatively flat. It's pretty wide. It's a much safer, you can sort of see the beginning. Oh, you see it on here. Greenfield Hill kind of comes up, and then it's got a quick turn, and it's fairly narrow.
what's
The point I'm saying is that I think it's right that the house is oriented to Vernon Hill Road.
that's just a fact.
Just
It
safe.
is,
Yeah.
It is, okay.
Yeah, it's just a safer location for it. The problem for it, though, is it's, this part of the site is squished, right? When this house was built, if they had flipped it on Greenfield Hill Road, then, well, you have ample room side to side for this house. But because they chose, look, we're gonna orient it from Vernon Hill Road, put it towards that, it's actually putting it on the part of the site that's pinched, and that's creating this
And
problem.
that's why they built only a single garage to that side. And
Yeah, when they
the
originally did it.
second- And the second garage is under the house.
Yes, there's a garage here, which is, it's called a garage, but it's so narrow. It's functionally where the kids keep their bikes. Because to pull a car in there, you open the doors, it's too tight. So that's why he's looking to do something that would actually be a functional vehicle garage.
All right, so no more questions from the board? Oh, no?
I think I'm good.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in here or online who'd like to speak for this application? No? Is there anyone in here or online who'd like to speak in opposition to this application? No? Okay, we're going to close this application. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go on to item number 2, which is 310 Duck Farm Road, map 147, parcel 327. Petition of Angela. Angela.
Moyo?
Oh,
Hi.
so much. Angela Moyo for a variance to the zoning regulations section 3.5.1 to increase the lot coverage from 20%, currently 19.7, proposing 21.4, permission to construct a front open porch with stairs. Hi, name and address, please?
Hi, I'm Angela Moyo. I live at, you can see me, right? Sorry.
Yes, we can.
310 Duck Farm Road, which is on the corner of, I'm on the corner of Alma Drive and Duck Farm.
Okay.
And I'm in zone A, and I'm on a 0.32 acre lot. I am, yes, seeking approval for the addition of a front porch with a proper raising of the entrance into the house, because there is also a large step that goes down. The original lot had been subdivided years ago, and so this is not only on a corner lot, awkwardly kind of tilted, but it's an odd shape as well. It's this large triangular shape. And if the previous owners had not only subdivided it and sold it, but there is in my case, a large garage in the back, and then there is a deck, and the size of this porch is kind of putting me over the lot allowance for this. I bought this house 6 or 7 years ago. So the current zoning codes are preventing me from being able to just kind of put this onto the front. I do have the signed petition of 3 of my neighbors. The 298 Duck Farm Road, 344 Duck Farm Road, which is kind of across the beginning of Alma Drive, the front of their house is on Duck Farm, but they also have a side driveway as I do, and so they're my neighbor there. And then 42 Alma Drive, which is the first house in next to me. And I believe you have the survey, or the updated survey. Excuse me, can you please close the door? Excuse me, I'm so sorry. I have to I apologize. I'm so sorry. And yeah, so those are really the 2 main hardships of this lot. It's just really, really awkward. So
Okay, all right,
that's
thank
sorry.
you.
That's my.
That's okay. That's okay. Does the board have any questions? Go ahead.
Much like the last applicant, I don't see in the zoning summary in the 19 feet referred to in the narrative. Or I don't see it on the
The lot coverage?
I see it in the chart, but I don't see it on the map. Where exactly is the 19 feet, and why is that being increased, or how is that being increased?
I'm sorry, I think I'm misunderstanding.
So you talk in the narrative about having a what is it? It's
He's putting in a covered porch, that's creating the lot coverage, overage.
Correct.
That's what's on her, if you look at
Oh,
the
okay,
plan.
now I'm sorry.
Matt, can you bring that, there it is, right there.
Yeah.
So that's creating her to go over her lot coverage.
Okay.
Maybe while Joe looks at that, does anyone else have questions on the application?
Okay, I see.
Hi, I have a question. So you're talking about the hardship is that the house is, not square to the lot? But,
That's part of it, but it's also physically on, it's a very awkward corner lot. But it's also an odd shape.
right, but you're asking for a coverage variance. So what does the coverage variance have to do with the position of the house on the lot?
Yeah. The position, exactly. I mean, I personally don't relate the two. It's just, it doesn't have any specific topography it's a pretty flat front, yard. But
So
Yeah,
the
I mean,
reason-
yeah.
The reason I'm
Sorry.
asking is, you're asking to go over your lot coverage by a small amount, right?
oh, yes, yes,
You're also asking for an 8-foot deep porch, which is, significant.
yes,
And if you hypothetically pulled the porch back so it wasn't 8 feet deep, maybe it was 7 feet deep, would that
mm-hmm,
apply?
yeah,
Regulations?
yeah,
Would you do that?
yes. Oh, sorry. I mean, that absolutely can be done. Yeah,
And would that bring you
I don't
into
have it.
conformance?
Yes. I don't know the exact amount. My contractor should be in Zoom, but that absolutely can be done. I wanted the size of it to be where you could at least put a chair on it. It doesn't have to be some large. Originally, I thought 9 feet was too big, so 8 feet I do think is a decent size, and I 100% could make it smaller to conform with the zoning.
I am on, Angela.
Okay,
okay.
hi.
I am.
Hi.
Hold on one second.
Sure.
So this is the applicant, Matt, speaking to us. And now she's brought on her contractor, so he can now speak for the applicant now.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Speaking
And then
of-
can you, if you're gonna speak, I believe you're Vincent, right?
Correct.
Can you just name an address, please?
Vincent Fumara, 55 Normandy Road, Trumbull, Connecticut.
Okay, please, proceed.
We are at about 192 square feet. It's 24 by 8 right now. And I know we're just a touch over. I do work on Alma as well, working with their neighbors, and I showed them the plans. My personal humble opinion, I truly believe it does conform to the neighborhood. Could we scale it back? It need be? Yeah, of course. We'd scale it back for the board if you guys are requiring us to do so. I also kicked around scaling back the back deck a touch too, if that would help also, but I don't know if we have to go that direction. If we could, if you're asking us to scale it back to 24 by 7, that would put us right about where we would need to be anyway.
Can I interrupt something? We're not asking you to do anything. I'm just giving, like hypothetically, we
Yeah.
can't tell you what to do.
Got it.
Yeah.
No, I
We're not
understand.
directing you or suggesting you must do any of these things.
Yeah, because you're only here because you're asking us for a variance on your lot coverage. If you created a plan where you work over your lot coverage, you wouldn't need to come to us. You wouldn't need to come back here. You would just work with the building department, I believe.
It would-
Yeah, you would conform and you wouldn't need to be here. Okay, any other questions for this application from the board?
Sorry, I'm just having a little trouble looking at something. So we've established there is no pre-existing nonconformity on this lot.
Well, there-
other than-
Well, not for lot coverage, I mean.
It doesn't matter whether it's lot coverage or not. If there's a pre-existing nonconformity on the lot, no matter what they do to the lot, they want
You
to.
can ask questions, if you have questions.
So if there's a pre-existing nonconformity on this lot, and they want to do anything to the lot, they would have to come here anyway, whether it's directly affected by the build or not. Is that my understanding correct?
Necessarily, I mean, anybody can, you can do construction to your property that could make the addition compliant or not. It's just a matter of how it fits on the property and how it fits on the house. I mean, every parcel's different. Some are conforming, some are not conforming. Heard that on the past application, we heard that this one, they're relevant, but, it's just a matter of what you as the board feel is, within line to what comes before and you hear.
I'm not seeing a nonconformity in the existing circumstances. Is that correct?
I don't believe there are any.
Okay, that's what I was.
Yeah, I don't believe there are any. I'm just saying it was subdivided and it's awkward, that's all.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
That hardship.
Thank you so much. Sorry for my interruption.
No, don't worry about it.
Sorry.
Okay, is there anyone here who'd like to speak for this application? Is there anyone here who'd like to speak in opposition of this application? We're going to close this application. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item is number 3, 163 Alden Street, map 182, parcel 495, petition of Richard John Meehan for a variance to zoning regulations section 3.4.1 to reduce the street line setback from 20, currently 12.8, proposing 14.2. And section 3.4.2 to reduce the street line setback for an unenclosed porch from 12 feet, currently 9.6 feet, proposing 4.7. And section 3.5.1 to increase the total floor area from 50%, currently 29.5, proposing 61.3. Permission to construct a new FEMA-compliant 2.5-story single-family dwelling with a front and rear porch and stairs, premises B zone. Does the applicant?
He's online.
Okay, you're muted, I think.
He's on.
Can you hear me?
Okay, so name and address?
Hi, yes, Richard Meehan, 163 Alden Street, Fairfield, Connecticut.
Please go ahead and explain your application to us.
Okay, great, yeah. So again, I'm Richard Meehan, I'm the applicant for 163 Alden Street. We're proposing to demolish the existing structure and construct a new FEMA-compliant 2.5-story single-family home at 2,681 square feet. The design is consistent with the scale and character of the homes on Alden Street. It fits squarely within the established pattern of the neighborhood. We have 3 items as referenced before on the docket. First, the main structure setback, which is largely a continuation of the variance this board granted back in 2006, which runs with the land. Our proposal at 14 feet 2 inches is actually more conforming than the 10.26 feet previously approved and the approximately 12-foot existing conditions. The 2 substantive requests are on the far and the front steps. Both arise from the same hardship that this lot is legally non-conforming at 4,376 square feet, which is 27% below the Zone B minimum of 6,000 square feet, and the lot itself is only 58 feet. On a conforming lot, this exact house would have a 44.7% FAR and need no variance at all. The front stairs are a direct consequence of FEMA flood elevation requirements, not a design choice. I will add one personal note. I purchased this house in 2020 as my first home. My family has grown here. My wife teaches at Mill Hill, and my family firm relocated to Fairfield last year. So we're not here as developers. We're here as neighbors who want to stay and invest in this community for the long term. The hardship in this case is singular, pre-existing, and already established. In this board's own record, 163 Alden Street is a legally non-conforming lot of 4,376 square feet in the Zone B district that requires 6,000 square feet. The deficit, as I mentioned before, at 27%, equates to 1,624 square feet below the minimum. Under Connecticut General Statute, a variance is warranted where unique physical conditions of the property cause strict application of the regulations to produce hardship disproportionate to the zone's purpose, or where that condition was not self-created. All those elements are satisfied here. As I mentioned before, this lot is 27% below the Zone B minimum and only 58 feet. Both conditions predate current zoning and predate this applicant's ownership. They're fixed characteristics of the land itself, not choices made by the applicant. This is not a novel hardship claim. In 2006, this board granted variances on the same parcel after the then owner presented identical reasoning that the 4,376 square foot lot makes full compliance with Zone B standards impossible without penalizing the owner for a condition they did not create. The board then agreed. The lot hasn't changed, and neither has the reasoning here. The 50% FAR and standard in Zone B was calibrated for a 6,000 square foot lot. Applied to a 4,376 square foot lot, it imposes a materially lower ceiling that has nothing to do with the size or scale of the proposed structure. The proposed house is, as I mentioned, 2,681 square feet, a standard 4-bedroom single-family home with conventional room sizes. On a conforming 6,000 square foot lot, this exact house produces a 44.7% FAR, fully within the 50% limit, and no variance would be needed. The 493 square feet above the FAR threshold is not the product of overbuilding. It is the direct mathematical consequence of a 1,624 square foot lot deficit. I'm not asking the board to approve an oversized house. I'm asking to recognize that this is an undersized lot. This undersized lot makes an otherwise compliant house technically non-compliant through no fault of the applicant. Regarding the front stairs, again, the 2006 variance granted relief for the front stairs in the same parcel, reducing the minimum street setback line from the 20 feet to 10.26 feet. Board accepted that the flood zone conditions and lot constraints on this parcel warranted that relief. Today, we are proposing 4.7 feet, a greater encroachment than what was previously granted. And the reason is due to the FEMA flood zone requirements that mandate a first floor elevation that is higher now compared to when it was originally approved. A higher first floor elevation requires a longer stair to safely grade, and a longer stair run produces a greater projection towards the street line. However, the distance from the street itself remains at approximately 14 feet. On the Zone B FAR and setback standards exist to manage neighborhood scale, density, and massing. The proposed 2,681 square foot, 2.5 story single family home is consistent with that purpose and with the character of the street. The variance process exists precisely for situations where pre-existing lot conditions, such that the owner did not create, make strict compliance impossible, while the proposed use remains fully consistent with the zone's intent. And this is that situation.
Okay. All right, thank you. Does the board have questions for this applicant?
I do. Hi. So you have a house there now that you've been living in?
Yes.
So there's nothing wrong with the site with the house you have now? There's no hardship attributed to the site with the house that you have on there now? It's just the house you want to build, all of a sudden there's a hardship. Is that correct?
That's correct. The house that I have there now is a non-compliant home. It was built in 1930. It's an older cape. For us to increase the size of our house, which is our intent because we are trying to grow and expand our family, we would not be able to reasonably do so with the constraints due to the FEMA requirements. We'd have to either tear the house down and do what we're proposing to do, or seek to elevate the house. And we've elected to go with the option of making a new build.
Okay, so you brought up the fact that you want to increase the size of your family, and that's why you need a bigger house. That's not a hardship. That's not a legal hardship.
I'm not claiming that is the hardship. I'm claiming that the hardship is the non-conforming lot.
But you're not being deprived of the use of the lot because you're living in a house that exists and it functions. It's just not FEMA compliant. And if you did nothing to it, you wouldn't have to lift it or do anything, right? It would just
Correct.
continue to exist and, yeah.
Correct. And I understand that that by me saying the house not being suitable for myself and my family is not in and of itself a hardship, but I, as the owner of the property, would like to stay in this property and to build upon it. And so this is the proposal that I have put together. So.
You said that there's an existing variance that exists from what year, 2006?
2006.
Did you submit a copy of that? Do we have that? Okay.
I think it's here.
It's in here? Okay.
It's right there.
All right, I have one more question.
Do you have a question, Rachel?
No, I was just going to add that I'm very familiar with this property, and I knew the person who submitted that original.
In 2006.
And it was approved. He just decided to move away rather than complete the project, and he's just asking. It's a small bungalow.
Yeah, but for now, we're just going to ask the applicant
Right,
questions.
right.
We can do that
Yes,
later,
yeah,
and it's
yeah.
great you know about it, too. Joe, do you have any questions?
In terms of the neighborhood, I've looked cursorily at the other houses on the street. How does your lot compare to the other lots and the house that you're proposing to the existing houses on the street?
Thank you for the question. The existing houses on the street, I would say most of the lots are much larger, maybe, over 5,000 square feet. I know that there were some homes built that are actually larger than the house that we are proposing to build over the last couple of years. But those lots are, 5,800 square feet, maybe around 6,000 square feet. So these percentages aren't as much of an issue with those houses. And what we're proposing to build, as I had mentioned, is in keeping with the character of the neighborhood and what's being built.
Okay. Ron, do you have any questions of the applicant? Okay, no more questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hold, please. Almost to you. Is there anyone here who would like to speak for this application? Seeing none. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in opposition to this application?
I have some questions.
So you're going to go right over here, stand up, and then you're going to go behind the podium for us and just name an address, and then we'll see how we can handle your questions.
Yeah, name is Carl Paulson, Poulsen, 5 Hollis Street, Fairfield.
Okay. And I just want to make sure you can hear him, right, Mr. Meehan?
Yes.
Okay, because you may need to. Right now, we're just going to listen to him, but after he speaks, if you'd like to address what he said, you're welcome to do that. Okay? Okay, please.
What is the definition of a hardship?
Well, it's a legal term, and it has to go with the land.
You have to go with what?
It has to go with the land.
With the land?
With the land. It's only about the property. It has nothing to do with anything personal, any needs you have.
So it would be the size
The size.
of the land.
Yep, topography. If you have a lot that fell down a lot in the back, if you're on a corner lot and you have to, there's a lot of hardships.
So he was claiming that it was a hardship situation in this case?
Yes, Mr. Meehan is telling us that he has an undersized lot.
A pre-existing non-conforming lot, which it is.
Now, I have to disagree with the character of the neighborhood. The character of the neighborhood is changing because of these enormous homes that are going up, which is really ruining the character of the neighborhood. I live on Hollis Street, and they're 1.5-story homes, and the whole area is being surrounded by these enormous, enormous homes. You're blocking out the sunlight, you're blocking out the sky, the trees, and you can't even put a price on that. You know, everything is how much is the home worth and this and that, but what about your mental health, where in so many instances, these people that are being surrounded by these big homes, they don't have a view of the sky anymore. The sun's being blocked out in the morning. Trees are being cut down. And I think that has some value that's really not being taken into consideration in most instances. Got a question here. Has the zoning changed since this house was built, his house was built?
Mr. Decker?
No. Oh, so this was always possible to do what's being done from the beginning of the structure when this was built?
What was always possible?
What's that?
What was always possible?
The zoning hasn't changed at all since the house was built.
No, I believe the house
Well, the house was built in 1932.
Right.
So
Has the zoning
the
changed?
zoning requirements have changed throughout the entire town, almost every decade, since they were adopted in 1925.
And who makes the changes? Who is the group?
Zoning Commission.
The planning and, are you on the Planning and Zoning Commission?
No, I'm the zoning enforcement officer. The Planning and Zoning Commission is elected, it's an elected board, just like the Zoning Board of Appeals is. All town residents.
FEMA compliant. This is supposed to be a FEMA compliant home. What does that mean?
That is not, we do not impose FEMA compliance. That would be a whole different, he would have to get that approved by another board, I assume?
It's not by a board.
Well, he's saying it's
administrative.
It's
FEMA
administrative.
compliant.
Well, he would have to get that approved.
So that is where it's way up in the air?
I believe so, yes.
I can answer that if you like.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, please.
Making a house FEMA compliant is what the government wants you to do if you exceed 50% of the value of the existing structure. If the value of the existing structure is exceeded based on your improvement costs, you have to make the home FEMA compliant, meaning you have to lift it to be above the base flood elevation from Long Island Sound plus 1 foot.
Well, that's part of the problem, because the houses that I'm being surrounded by are FEMA compliant.
Those are codes
And
that are
they're
required.
way, I mean, it's awful. It's really, again, you can't put a price on the sky, on the sun, on the
It's
trees.
not a town issue.
Well, the town, he wants a home approved in order so he can build a FEMA compliant. So the town has something to do with it. If the town doesn't approve this variance, he's not going to be able to build a home.
Even if he wasn't lifting the house, he would be in front of this board.
Say that again?
Even if he was not lifting the house to be FEMA compliant, he would be in front of this board outside of the steps that are needed to get into the house.
I'm not sure what
He has
you...
other needs, he has other approvals needed because he's going into setbacks.
Yeah. Okay, so anyhow, I really would prefer not to see this home built. It's going to be a knockdown. You're going to build a big home. And so I would object to it being,
Okay.
this being done.
Okay, thank you for coming and telling us
Okay,
that.
thank you.
Mr. Meehan, would you like to address any of the comments made?
Nothing outside of the fact that I have, and I believe it's part of my materials that I submitted. I have spoken with my neighbors who have signed the petition and showed them the plans
Okay.
for this.
right.
There was only one neighbor that I just didn't answer, so.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, seeing no one else wants to speak in opposition to this application, we are going to close this application. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we are moving on to item number 4. 67 Brookview Avenue, map 31, parcel 172, petition of Tom and Rebecca Little for a variance of the zoning regulations, section 3.5.1, to increase the lot coverage from 20%, currently 20.6, proposing 22.4. Permission to construct a new 1- and 2-story addition and a detached shed, premises A zone.
I have these signatures.
Tara?
Can I give them to you now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. The original as well?
Just the original.
Just the original.
The rest will just stand up.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Members of the Zoning Board of Appeals. My name is Rebecca Little, and I live at 67 Brookview Avenue with my husband Tom and our 2 children. I am here today to ask for zoning relief for our home. Our architect, Alyssa Kent, has been assisting us with the design and zoning process. We are seeking a variance from section 3.5 coverage and bulk standards, specifically for maximum lot coverage where 20% is permitted. The existing lot coverage is approximately 20.6, and the proposed project would result in a total lot coverage of approximately 24.2%. The need for this variance arises from the below property hardships. Undersized lot conditions. The property is undersized relative to the requirements of the A zone, including both frontage and overall lot area. These constraints limit the ability to expand the home in a manner that fully complies with zoning while still meeting reasonable residential needs. And the second is existing nonconformity. The property already exceeds the allowable lot coverage slightly at 20.6%. Making an addition, no matter how modest, trigger the need for zoning relief. This is a pre-existing condition not created by the current homeowners. Importantly, we are seeking to remain in our established home and neighborhood where we have built strong personal and community ties rather than relocating. The proposal reflects a reasonable and measured effort to adapt our home to meet these needs. The requested increase in lot coverage from 20% to 24.2% is modest and represents the minimum necessary to achieve a functional layout. The design has been carefully considered to limit the footprint while still providing meaningful improvements to the home. The proposed addition is in keeping with the scale and character of surrounding homes and will not adversely impact abutting properties or the public good. Thank you for your time and consideration of our application.
Thank you. Does any member of the board have questions for this applicant? Joe?
The petition you just gave us is signed by Robert Cooper at 55 Brookview Avenue.
Correct.
Who is Mr. Cooper?
He is our neighbor.
The Robert Cooper who is on the title for 55 Brookview died 3 years ago. So who is this person?
So Brian, our neighbor, I believe, is a co-owner or something and signed on his behalf because it's.
Okay, so Brian Benson, who's at 55 Brookview.
Yes.
Signed Robert Cooper's name.
Correct.
Okay.
And he also signed a letter that was sent to the board.
Well, he didn't sign it. There was no signature on it.
But he said it was from him.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know, not familiar with the letter.
Do you have the letter? Isn't it in the application? Is it signed?
Digitally only.
Just an email.
So it's an email from Robert Cooper,
Okay.
who's dead.
Yes. we are aware of that. Yes.
Did you know that he signed his name and it wasn't him?
I was not present for that.
Even executor?
I do not know. It's a sensitive situation that I really try to stay out of what is going on with my neighbors.
Okay. Okay.
And my husband is on, and he can touch on that further if needed.
Which one
Hi,
is she?
He's Tom.
my name is Tom Little.
Okay, just name and address?
Yep, Tom Little, 67 Brookview Avenue.
Yes. Do you
Yeah,
wanna-
I don't really, we, like my wife said, we don't really know the situation next door. We kind of stay out of it. Last I heard from them was it's in probate at this point. Not really sure anything more than that.
Okay, any other questions from the board to the applicants?
Yes. What's the square footage of just the shed that you're proposing in the back?
Tom, do you know?
Yep. We're looking at putting in an 8-foot by 10-foot shed. And that's because as part of this project, we want to bring the home into FEMA flood compliance. So we'd end up losing our entire basement. So we're asking for a small, modest shed just to have some additional storage.
You have a 2-car garage as well, right?
Yes. That currently acts as our workspace outside of the home.
Right.
Because we both work from home.
Okay, any other questions to the applicants from the board? Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here who'd like to speak in opposition to this application? Okay, we are going to close the application. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to number 5, which is 99 Quaker Lane, map 128, parcel 310, petition of Jeff and Rachel Anderson for a variance to the zoning regulations, section 3.4.1, to reduce the side setback from 7 feet, currently 13.2, proposing 5.9 in section 3.5.1 to increase the lot coverage from 20%, currently 15.6, proposing 22.8, permission to construct a rear addition for a future ADU. Hi.
Hi.
Name and address, please?
Yes, I'm Rachel Anderson. I live at 99 Quaker Lane. I do have some signatures from my neighborhood.
Thank you, yep. Originals to Tara, and then the rest we can circulate. Thank you.
Should I start? Okay, thanks. Hello, Commission. Thank you for your time this afternoon. My name is Rachel Anderson. My husband Jeff and I are the homeowners of 99 Quaker Lane, where we have lived for almost 21 years. We live in our home with our 2 sons, our oldest of whom is 20 and in college, and our youngest is 16. Jeff and I have both lived in Fairfield our entire lives, as did Jeff's father. We have deep roots in this town. We're here today seeking variance approval so that we can build an addition to our small cape for my 86-year-old father. My mom passed away last August. As you can imagine, that has changed a lot for my dad in the last 8 months. So sorry. Anyway, as a family, we have decided that having him live with us is the best scenario. Certainly from a social and emotional support perspective, but also from a very practical perspective. Staying in his home without my mother's pension contributions has become financially impossible for him. So this addition will allow him to age in place, to stay in the town that he has lived in for over 55 years. With this addition, he can remain relatively independent and have the support from our family going forward. Our architect is out of town, but she provided a letter which is shared in the online file. She's outlined the hardships that we are facing with regard to our pre-existing undersized lot, as well as the design considerations for my elderly father. I can read her letter, or I can just highlight some of her points. I'm not sure what's preferred.
Probably highlighting is great.
Because you have it, right?
Yes.
Okay, so our architect and friend is Alyssa Kent, and she writes on behalf of us. The applicants are seeking relief from the following zoning requirements: the one side setback with the minimum requirement of 7 feet and a proposed setback of 5.9 feet. The sum of side setback, the minimum required is 25 feet and the proposal is 19.1 feet. and maximum lot coverage. The permitted is 20%, and the proposal is 22.8%. The need for these variances arises from unique physical conditions and hardships of our property. We have the undersized lot frontage. We have 60 feet, and the regulation is 75. The undersized square on lot, undersized total lot area, and existing non-conforming conditions. The existing house is slightly skewed on the lot rather than aligned with the property. So the proposed addition follows the geometry of the existing building, resulting in a gradual extension into the setback, rather than introducing a new or abrupt nonconformity. She also notes that the proposed first floor addition is intended to create a private space for my father, which I've spoken about. His mobility and accessibility needs were the primary drivers of the design. The space has been carefully planned to be entirely on one level, minimizing or eliminating steps to allow for his independent access. These requirements significantly limited vertical design options and have necessitated a ground level footprint. We've made every effort to reduce the size of the addition to the minimum necessary to accommodate these accessibility needs and to maintain a functional and dignified living space for my father. The placement on the first floor addition was challenging due to the previously mentioned hardships, but also due to the interior layout of the connecting structure. The back of the existing house contains 2 bedrooms and a bathroom, and so we are proposing to convert one of those bedrooms to a dining room and to connect to my dad's space. And the placement of the addition was constrained by where we could add doorways and such. Those are her major points. Maybe I could just read her last 2 sentences, if you don't mind. Okay. In summary, the requested variances are not self-created, but instead arise from the combination of an undersized lot, existing structural constraints, and the legitimate need to provide accessible housing for an elderly family member. The relief requested is the minimum necessary to achieve these goals, and the proposal will not be detrimental to the neighborhood nor inconsistent with the intent of the zoning bylaws. Sincerely, Alyssa Kemp. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does the board have questions for the applicant? Joe?
So in the current situation, the lot is 375 square feet below the required zoning. Is there any other condition that that impacts you? Any other current condition that is pre-existing and non-conforming?
Well, the frontage, right? So we're 15 feet short in the front, which is now affecting our setback issue as we add this space for my father. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, the lot overall is undersized and our house is crooked. So as we extend off the back, it's sort of, it doesn't follow a parallel path.
Okay. Anyone else have questions on this applicant? No? Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, please.
Sorry. This is a question for Mr. Decker. Can you just clarify, if you have an attached ADU, you don't need a connecting door between the ADU and the house, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, just checking. Thank you.
Okay. No more questions from the board. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here who'd like to speak in opposition to this application?
Yes, this is Michael Fabrizi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Michael, just name and address.
Michael Fabrizi, 87 Quaker Lane. We're Rachel's neighbors to the east side of the property.
Yeah, go ahead.
I wasn't sure that I was going to make it in person, and since I'm remote, I prepared a statement. I believe all the board members have it. I figured I would walk through that as the talking points for my concerns with this, and then add some additional commentary to Rachel's comments about the architect's comments. So I just want everybody to know that when we respect Rachel's application. We are her neighbors for 21 years. We've been in Fairfield for 35 years, living at 87 Quaker Lane. I fully understand the challenges working on a non-conforming lot and the design difficulties that may be required when adding additions. But nevertheless, there are some concerns with the addition that I'd like to bring up to the board. There's, from the objective side, there's some zoning and compliance issues, and I'm not sure omissions intentionally, but my understanding of the regulations, there are some additional requirements for accessory apartments. This is being applied for as an accessory dwelling unit. I don't think the regulations define accessory dwelling units, although I do understand the intended purpose of this being for Haddad. And then there's also issues regarding to the character and the architectural design that potentially change the character or don't conform to the character of the neighborhood. So I'd just like to run through some of the things, and you can follow along maybe in the write-up. But the first thing regarding the setbacks and the zoning compliance summary that's indicated on the site plan. The 5.9 request is acknowledged, but also reading through the regulations for accessory apartments, I understand. And there's a chart that I provided inside the in the letter. It says for accessory apartments, there's some additional requirements that the setbacks need to be 10 feet. I could screen share if
No, Matt can bring it up.
It's in the back.
Keep going. We would just like to follow along after the pictures.
Yes, it's on page 2. There's a chart for the sort of a zoning compliance summary chart. And if you look down on the bottom of the chart, I put in a box.
So we're just going to take you back. You were on. You were talking now about number 1.
Yeah, the setbacks.
Okay, go ahead.
Right.
Please
Right,
continue.
acknowledging, that they're applying for a variance on the 5.9, but I think what I'm trying to establish here is that there are other regulations for accessory apartments that say that the setback should be 10 feet. And there's no indication of that in the application. And, I'm interpreting the regulations is the way I read them, but only, I understand that the board ultimately makes the decision on that. But that would mean to me that there's a reason for that extra space when you have an apartment being used in a manner as an apartment or an in-law apartment or a separate dwelling unit. So I feel that there's some additional encroachment now. Now we're asking for an acceptance of more than 6 feet instead of just 1.5.
Could you tell us where you got that regulation?
Right off the website. It was
Where on the
part of the 2025
Okay, is that
September
right?
16th zoning regulations.
Yeah, okay, can you hold on? Go ahead, Jane.
Just Mike, are you looking at where it says accessory structure zoning requirements, Town of Fairfield, that chart?
Yes, ma'am.
There's a difference between an accessory structure and an accessory dwelling unit. They're two different things. So that, what you're saying, does not apply in this case. Is that
No.
correct?
Well, like I said, interpreting this, the regulations were superseded in 2025 September, and the previous regulations had a description for accessory dwelling unit. These zoning regulations, I was not able to find anything that said ADU in it. An accessory apartment is an accessory structure. There's no doubt in my mind.
They're
that
not
it should be
necessarily the
interpreted.
same thing. You're
Okay,
correct.
well, I'll leave that decision to you. These
Okay,
are
so-
my findings, these are my interpretations, and you know, and I
So
feel.
on number
pretty
two, you
accurate.
want to talk about the size of the proposed accessory, and you're relating it to information that's wrong.
Well, not, well, you tell me that. If you look at Article 14, Section 13, again, it says accessory apartments.
But it's not an
And-
accessory, it's an ADU.
Well,
which is
the
different.
application is for an accessory apartment.
Well, it's an accessory, what's the difference, Matt?
An accessory to the primary, which is what this is considered. An accessory structure is something that's detached from the primary.
Okay,
structure.
so,
Well,
Oh,
I
see.
think that's for further discussion. It does not define an accessory structure as a freestanding structure. It can be a freestanding structure and it can be attached to the primary structure. In this case, it happens to be attached to the primary residence.
You can read the definitions, it's not.
the definition is, okay, go on. So,
Okay.
so
Well,
number, what?
if in fact that definition holds, then the proposed accessory apartment attached to the primary residence would be 1,130 square feet, and of which 850 square feet would constitute the first floor apartment with the extra added square feet on the second story. That 850 square feet, through my calculation, is in excess of what would normally be considered 40% of the existing floor area as shown in the compliance summary. That would put it about 600 square foot apartment.
Asking for. There's no kitchen in this addition, so it's not an apartment.
I heard somebody say this is not an apartment.
It's not an apartment because there isn't a kitchen.
Correct. There's no kitchen.
What is it called then?
It's an addition, but it's put down on the call as a future for a potential future accessory dwelling unit.
Well, the application says that she intends to use this as an apartment for her father.
No,
And
it does not say that.
if that is not the case, then the applicant should not have described it in that manner. My analysis is based on the fact that this will be an apartment. It is not. It is separately demised from the primary residence, which I feel does not represent the definition of an apartment because there is no means to access the apartment from the primary residence right now. You have to go to the outside. That's another point that I'll make, further down in the letter.
Mr. Fabrizi, because this obviously is, we're not agreeing on your definition, why don't we go to number 4? Because the impact on your property, how you see this, would be how you can explain why you're in opposition to this, regardless of the rest.
Looking at number 3, that talks about the character of the neighborhood. This addition, if you look at the satellite image that I provided and the best case, the rendering
Matt,
I
do you
tried
have that
to
picture
show.
where you're showing?
That's further down on the second or third page past that. So I think this property, if you look at this property, this is an addition that is an accessory to a primary residence that doesn't appear to be consistent with the character of the homes in the neighborhood. It presents itself as a wing. It's a 50-foot long structure that is attached to the primary residence through only a small 8-foot piece of the back. That does not seem to be a integrated design that's more reflective of a typical addition in the neighborhood, where if anybody's driven down Quaker Lane or the surrounding streets, these were all homes built in the 40s, Cape Cods, and the traditional type of addition has been a Cape Cod expansion with a dormer, maybe a small addition off the back. You may know that the house next to two down to the west of Rachel is a brand new addition in 107 Quaker Lane, I think. Shows a very nice addition with attachment off the back, more in line with the type of additions that I've noticed throughout the neighborhood. This would be sort of a jarring type addition. Again, translating down the property 2/3 of the backyard, which then would be on my side. And if you look at the aerial, it'll give you a perspective of how long and narrow this building is and how incongruous it is to the existing addition. That does not fit with the character of the neighborhood, and this would be unique. It would appear to impose possibly damage the mature arborvitaes that I've had there, that both Rachel's side and my side have enjoyed for many years. And I'm concerned that excavation of that foundation will damage the arborvitaes to a certain extent, and the long-term structure being in front of them will eventually cause them to die or weaken over time. And the other thing is that when this building is attached, there's going to be 80 feet of open space. It's an 80-foot long structure. It's 50-foot addition. It's only 17 feet wide. And it's connected in the rear side, and the building's 30 feet long. So that's 80 feet of structure on my side of the property. It's imposing, and I'm not unaccustomed to working in non-conforming lots. I think that I further go on to say that and I've discussed this with Rachel and Jeff, and in no way do I want this to be adversarial. I think it should be a collaborative thing. There were choices, I believe, that could be made that could add a cohesive, integrated addition to the rear of the building, and partially even use the east side that adjoins, that's on my side, but from the main structure extending out to the east a little bit and then wrapping around the building. What I'm saying is that the hardship here, it's the land, but it's what you do with the land. And this particular arrangement and configuration, if you were to make a mirror image and put it on the other side, there's a garage there, obviously. But what I'm saying is it could be done without changing or without requiring a variance.
Okay, is there anything else?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
There's also the thought that the front elevation, again, not keeping in character what's being done anywhere else, it comes off as looking odd, and the front of the home and the front of the addition overlap each other, so you have a gabled looking front that is partially obstructed by the home, and it gives the appearance again of a two-family setting, and a separate, more of a multi-family configuration in a single-family neighborhood.
Okay.
So, that just being said, I think that I've raised some concerns here that are somewhat subjective, but there are many of them are objective. I think that a possible alteration to the design could achieve the same thing, that keeps more in line with the type of construction that is already in the neighborhood. I'm willing to work with the Andersons to come up with something that's a little less imposing on us, that keeps the setting generally the way it is.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to move on. Thank you for your input, I appreciate it. Okay.
Mr. Decker?
Yes.
So it's not yet an ADU? And it's
They would
because-
need to come back to this board to convert that into an accessory dwelling unit.
Okay, because as I look at them, there's no stove.
There's no kitchen. There's a wet bar there, there's a sink and a.
Because we don't see a stove, and that's why.
So this is an addition.
It's an addition.
Really, that's, for this board, as we look at this,
Yeah.
this is an addition. Okay, so. this
So,
is what
can I just ask a question?
No, no more. Okay, so this is what you could do now. You may address any of the things that your neighbor brought up, if you want to. It's your choice. So you can, if you think there's something he has said you want us to hear, if you think not, that's your choice, but you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple of things. We appreciate our relationship with Mike and his wife, for sure. Someone is sharing an image that was drawn by Mike. I just want to point out that that is not at all to scale. It will not be that high. The hedge between our neighbors, Mike's hedge, which borders our property, is at least 20 feet high. The structure will be 15 feet high. I don't really, no one is going to, the bulk of it, no one is going to see. And I did want to point out, but you already did, that it's not an ADU. My dad will not have a kitchen. My dad does not cook. So it is essentially a bedroom, a bathroom, and a sitting area for him.
Have you sat down with Mr. Fabrizi and tried to come up with something he may like, or is he not like this?
We talked to him very briefly before he was traveling, and then we did have a call with him. What I will say is that we did sit down with our designer and our architect. We tried every which way we can to put something on for my dad that gives him privacy, independence, and still preserves some use of our yard. If we considered putting something across the back, we would have to rework our entire interior first floor. We would lose, all of that yard. We don't have a huge yard to begin with. This is really the only place that any of us can come up with to really put something.
I don't think it's the only place, Rachel. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Michael, you're done.
Is there anything else you'd like to respond to from Mr. Fabrizi?
No. I mean, he commented on the character of our neighborhood, but if you drive down our street, the street is filled with capes. It's still a cape. It's not, and we really have no way to build up for my father because he's approaching 87. That's not a good idea. So I think I've said my piece. Thank you.
Is there anyone else here or online wishing to speak against this application? Seeing none, hearing none, we're going to close this application. Thank you very much.
There was a neighbor that submitted a letter in support.
Yeah,
It's
we
in the
have that
file.
online.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is everyone okay? No one needs a break? Is everyone okay? Okay. We're going to move on to number 6 on our agenda, which is 73 Partridge Lane, map 177, parcel 205. Petition of Robert Merlino and Maeve Nuccio for a variance to zoning regulations, section 3.5.1, to increase the lot coverage from 20%, currently 19.4, proposing 22.7, permission to construct a one-story, one-car garage. Hi, name and address, please.
Yes, Robert Morlino, 73 Partridge Lane.
Okay, good.
Yes, good afternoon. What we'd like to do is build a one-story attached garage to our existing home, which is in a conforming lot, Zone A. The reason for wanting to construct the garage is to repurpose existing space on the first floor living area and create more living space. The home, which we've purchased 4 years ago, was renovated by the prior owner. And due to a drainage easement that's maintained by the town, which extends 12 feet into the property from the west side boundary, and then also runs the length of the property, nothing can be constructed on top of the easement. So the decision was made by the prior owner when they did a renovation to integrate the garage space into the actual structure. So presently, a considerable amount of the living space is taken up by garage. There's also a porch, covered porch on the front of the house. And as a result, we're just pretty constrained. We've grown our family since we moved into the house, and a better use of the space would be living space versus a garage. So what we propose to do is add a single-story, one-car garage to the side of the house, attached because of the easement, so within the boundary of the easement, and repurpose the other space for living space. In terms of design, consistent with the overall character of the neighborhood, all the abutting neighbors have approved and are supportive of the proposal. The variance is for to request additional lot coverage, going up to 2.7% above 20%. And this is largely due to the constraints of the easement. So were we to look at other options, for example, we could reduce or eliminate the size of the front porch, and normally would be able to do a detached structure on the side of the house for garage, but that's not an option because of the easement. And so this is a kind of workaround or an attempt to make the best use of space given those constraints.
Questions from the board? Joe? Sorry.
It's all right. How large is the garage?
Existing?
How many square feet is the proposed addition?
I would be about 250 square feet. Approximately 11 feet by 24.
Go ahead, Jane.
So if the easement wasn't there, would you have made that proposed garage addition wider?
We would probably do it detached. It would be wider, more like a standard two-car garage.
So those are all just hypothetical, maybe we would have done that. So, because we can really only look at.
Yes. In fact, the original plan when the prior owner did the renovation was to have a detached garage. They changed that as a result of, not being able to build anything over that part of the property.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here who'd like to speak in opposition to this application? No? Okay, we're going to close this application. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, number 7. 12 Sugar Plum Lane, map 77, parcel 654. Petition of Burju? For a variance to the zoning regulations, section 3.4.1, to reduce the primary street line setback on a corner lot from 30, currently 27.6, proposing 29.5. Permission to permit a second floor due to a construction error.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Jude Johnson. I live at 298 Patrona Drive. So I live right around the corner. My partner and I, Tarek, who's here, I renovate in the area, so I kind of stay close to home if I see something that needs development. So I'll just read some of my points. 12 Sugar Plum is an existing non-conforming structure. It was already 27.5, so it wasn't meeting the front setback to begin with. Our intention was to set it back on the top, so we did a second floor just over the garage and a living space, but the framers, as is explained to me, they were trying to align it and still left, based on the framing, kind of 6 inches exposed still into the front setback. So I'll just continue. When we applied for a permit to add the second floor, the intent was to correct this by setting back the second floor so it meets the zoning minimum front setback. Due to alignment issues with existing structure, our framers unfortunately framed the second floor approximately 6 inches still in the setback. Requirement encroachment, in my opinion, is extremely minimal and does not materially change the footprint or the scale or visual impact of the home in the neighborhood. The property is also located on a corner lot, which creates additional setback constraints compared to interior parcels and limits the flexibility of the building envelope. Prior to renovation, the house had been vacant and in states of significant neglect with overgrown trees and deferred maintenance. Through this project, the property, has been restored and improved, contributing positively to the supporting area. Correcting the 6-inch deviation will require substantial, demolition, creating, unnecessary hardship without providing, I think, much material benefit. Additionally, we have obtained signatures from all of the neighbors. Obviously, I live in the neighborhood, and they were quite happy to see this home, get renovated and brought up to standard. And they have full support of the variance and the work performed. For these reasons, we respectively request approval of the variance.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So, questions from the board?
Presumably, you got a building permit, no problem with everything that was proposed.
Yes, correct.
And now it's come up on the survey, or how did you decide?
On the survey, yeah.
As-built?
Yes, on the as-built, yeah. But when you look at how it framed, it's not like it's like jutting out. So when they framed it, you could see that when they aligned it, it's still trying to keep it square. It's still protruded a little bit, yeah. So I think originally you probably should have just asked for the waiver at first, Anyway, yeah.
Okay, any other questions? No? Okay. Thank you very much. Is there anyone here or online who'd like to speak for this application? Is there anyone here or online who would like to speak in opposition of this application? No? Okay, we are going to our last one. We do need to move some seats.
Musical chairs time.
Can we take a 2-minute break as long as people were up and about?
Sure. Okay, so we're going to close the public hearing for 5 minutes.
Can you get through?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, the public hearing is open again. We are going to hear our last item, number 8. It's 442 Zoss Drive, map 125, parcel 114, Patricia, Brian, and Allison Avalone for variance of the zoning regulations, section 3.5.1, to increase the lot coverage from 20%, currently 20.3, proposing 22.5. Permission to construct an open front porch with stairs, premises A zone.
Good afternoon, board. Thank you for your time and our wonderful alternates for sitting for us. Anytime a member of this board comes up, it can certainly present some awkward circumstances. However, I believe our application is fairly straightforward. My name is Brian Avalone. I am at 442 Zoss Drive. I am the joint property owner. No one's perfect, guys. Forget who I am. So at this point, we have a fairly straightforward pair of nonconformity or single nonconformity for the hardship, which is the pre-existing 0.3% overage in the coverage on the lot. We also have a topographical hardship wherein the front of our lot slopes down rather significantly in the front of the yard. What we're seeking to do is add my wife's dream porch. It is very modest, adds significant character to the home. In presenting the design to the neighborhood, the first characteristic pointed out by everyone was, what a beautiful porch. It will provide shade when necessary. It'll provide cover for when our kids are playing outside. It will significantly enhance the aesthetic of the home from the front. The house itself, in its future condition, is in compliance and within what the rest of the neighborhood looks like now and the construction that has been existing. The second part of the applause that we got from our neighbors is that we will use as much of the off-street area in order to affect the construction as possible. We will use our 2-car existing garage for all construction, cutting, hammering, sawing, whatever needs to be done. That will minimize the noise in the neighborhood. We have a very long driveway, very long impervious driveway that will support 5 to 6 construction vehicles. We'll utilize the side yard also for parking. If you scroll through the application, you'll notice that there are drawings for an addition above the garage that will not exist. That has been eliminated from the plans in order to keep us from adding any additional coverage in terms of building the garage. Also, we'll be staying well under the FAR for the allowable lots, for the allowable on the lot. Generally speaking, I acknowledge that the lot is a conforming lot within the zone. I do believe, as I've stated myriad times, that it is the hope of any homeowner to make of their property what they can. And it behooves any neighbor to do so within reason and not create any imposing structure. I believe that the construction that we have proposed on this lot is neither imposing nor outside the norm of the neighborhood. That's generally it. I'm glad to take any questions that we have. Just to state clearly also, we are seeking a 2.2% increase for the porch alone, which is simply removing the garden that is on the front of the house. And we're adding the steps obviously up onto the porch in order to be compliant with steps and risers. Matt, if you could just scroll down and show the existing homes within the area. There's one that I did not take a picture of that is significantly larger. And we specifically designed our house not to fall within that imposing style structure. That house has been there for a while. You just scroll through slowly. The primary difference with our deck is that because of the topography, it'll be raised up slightly and fenced in for safety. And these are just a few of the colonial constructions that have gone on our lot. You'll notice at the bottom we have signatures from everyone. A few people would have shown up, but everybody's working. That is the crux of our application.
Okay, questions from the board? Please.
Does your home currently have an overhang over the front door?
It does not, no.
So adding the porch with an overhang would protect your front door and possibly wooden structures?
Yes, very much so.
In the weather?
Yep, very much so.
I'm not exactly sure how to go forward with this, but I want to, let me just share two things. Interestingly, Brian, your application is 36 pages long and includes some of the guidance that comes with all the applications on our website. But I'll give you a copy and I'll just pass it on so you can have an opportunity to comment. At the bottom of the page, C, variances to be sparingly granted. The power to grant a variance should be exercised sparingly. The obvious reason is that unless great caution is used and variances are granted only in proper cases, the whole fabric of town and citywide zoning will be worn through in spots and raveled at the edges until its purpose in protecting property values and securing the orderly development of the communities are undone. The granting of a variance must be reserved for those situations involving exceptional or unusual circumstances. So that is from the Connecticut Federation of Planning and Zoning Agencies and its guidance to applicants in making applications. And then in our training for this, we have been directed by the Connecticut, or by CLEAR, which is the Yukon Center for Land Use, Education, and Research, and this book by Michael Ziska, and give you a copy. And in that, he cites Moon versus Zoning Board of Appeals. The granting of a variance must be reserved for unusual or exceptional circumstances. An applicant for a variance must show that because of some peculiar characteristic of his property, the strict application of the zoning regulation produces an unusual hardship as opposed to the general impact which the regulation has on other properties in the zone. Proof of exceptional difficulty or unusual hardship is absolutely necessary as a condition precedent to the granting of a zoning variance. A mere economic hardship, that's not appropriate. But so with the guidance from the Federation and this court case, how could you characterize your circumstances as a hardship under our zoning laws?
Well, I would respond in several cases. The first is topography has always been a classification for a hardship and a reason to grant hardship on a property or be represented as a hardship on a property. If our property were completely flat and were level, we could lower the porch. We could have some remedy there. The property at the point where the porch begins to slope at about a foot over a foot.
Do you have that?
Pretty quick.
No aerial.
Do you have anything showing that?
I don't.
So topography, you don't have any evidence of topography?
No, I can pull up Google Earth, and you can see the front of our house. It slopes at a gradual state at first and then begins to pitch significantly down after about the end of where the porch would lie. The remainder of the argument, I would say that boards such as this exist in order to utilize reason and protect against extraneous and imposing or buildings that would significantly be contrary to either the characteristics of a neighborhood or the comprehensive zoning code. I believe that what is being presented here is a nominal request that in no way infringes on or places at risk the comprehensive zoning plan or any significant fabric of a neighborhood or the town itself. I don't believe there is any wearing thin of or risk to the comprehensive zoning plan of the town in granting a 2.2% coverage variance for a porch.
So you're saying if the property were flatter, the porch could be a patio, not included in the coverage ratio, and therefore that's your hardship?
We would have better remedies if the topography were other than.
Okay.
But we don't have any evidence of this topography.
Like I said, we all have computers, we can
Yeah, but-
Google Earth it.
But that needed to be submitted with the application. Okay, any other questions from the board? No? Joe?
No.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor of this application? Anyone here who would like to speak in opposition to this application? Okay, we're going to close this application, and we're also going to close the public hearing. Okay, so we're going to do some more seat changes.
Do you guys, let me ask you a question. Do you guys want me to just, do you guys want to do mine first and
No,
then?
we're going to do all of them, and we're going to do yours last.
So would it be easier if we did number 8 first?
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
No, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna go in order. No, it will be quick.
Maybe not, some of them were very detailed.
Okay, everyone ready? Okay, ready, guys? Okay, we're gonna go on to the voting portion. First on our docket is 115 Vernon Hill. They are looking for permission for setback relief. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Brian, and a second?
Second.
Rachel. Discussion?
Based on the shape and orientation of the lot, I believe they do have a hardship. They have the low frontage. Actually, sorry, that was the first one. I was looking at the second one. Based on the low lot frontage, they do have the basis of a hardship to make the application. And I think there's plenty of room on the property. I don't think it impinges on the neighbors. There was no objection from anyone anywhere. I think it's a reasonable use of the property that is consistent with what's all over the neighborhood.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Sure.
You used the word reasonable a lot.
I do.
What's your definition of reasonable?
Well, I think when I look at something, when my eye looks at an application, if they're not hulking over a property line, or they're not imposing way over a setback, or it's not, asking for an enormous overage of something, or it has little to no deleterious effect on the surrounding area, I think that's reason.
Just, 'cause you use that word a lot. So
Does anyone else have any thoughts on this application?
It's a corner lot. They do it's essentially, the frontage is the short one because the house was always
But if they put
arranged
it,
towards that.
the thing I struggle with, if they put the garage on the other side, then I could see the corner lot argument. But they're not being, the setback on that side of the street isn't affecting what they're doing. Because they're going to the neighbor's side.
But the lot shape is, the lot shape is affected by the non-conforming frontage on Verna Hill.
Right, because it's not square on the lot, right? That's what the.
I mean, it's almost square, but
Yeah.
the fact is, if they had 200 feet of frontage as regulations require on Verna Hill, they'd have the side yard and wouldn't need the variance.
Right.
So the fact that the lot is not conforming to zoning regulations, even though it's adequate size, it's poorly shaped, and that limits the ability to move forward.
And you can't just arbitrarily put the garage from one side of the house to the other because it has to
But
connect
even if
to
it
what's
was on the
happening.
other side of the house, then it would be too close to Greenfield Hill.
Well, but then they would have a more legitimate ask because now they're really in the setback of a corner lot. But I agree. I don't disagree with what you're saying. Rachel, do you have anything on this?
No, I think I agree with the fact that the most affected party would be the neighbor that borders the side property, and they seem fine with it. I think I hate to use the word again, but it doesn't seem an unreasonable situation.
Okay,
In
if
this
seeing
case.
no more conversation, we will vote.
Can I just say one more thing?
Yes, please.
It's not whether it's reasonable or unreasonable. There's a legitimate legal hardship, and that's how we have to make our decision, our opinion. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, Rachel?
I approve it.
Okay, Brian?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
And I'm also a yes, that's applications approved.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
I got this question best.
There you go.
You did sit here for.
You made it this far, right?
Okay, our next application to consider is 310 Duck Farm. They're looking to construct a front open porch with stairs. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Brian, and a second.
Jane seconds.
Jane seconds. Discussion.
I cannot find a hardship on this property.
We can't either.
And we know that there are options. We're not going to deprive her of building a porch. It just may not be this porch.
Anyone, any other thoughts on this application?
This is another one where, there's no deleterious effect. I understand that she can make it smaller and do it, I believe, as of right, I think is what we had said, right? She can make it shallower and then build it as of right.
Well, no, I think we're looking for lot coverage. So I think they were talking about decreasing the deck so that the porch would then.
No, we discussed,
It could be
there's a
built-
way she could build
Yeah,
it
it could
that
be
would be
built-
built as of right.
Without needing a variance.
Within the regulation.
Right, within,
Yeah.
built as of right, within the regulations.
It's clarifying the term of art, as of right.
Yeah, she can,
She can cut a foot off.
Right, she doesn't, right, okay, so if there's no more discussion, we will vote on 310 Duck Farm Road. Rachel?
I have to go first.
Yes,
Yes.
you do. Okay, Brian?
Yeah.
Yes.
No. And I'm also a no. That application was not.
I'm sorry, I should have been a no. I misvoted.
Okay, you just made a mistake.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the record, I think we're okay if Tara, that Joe just misspoke and he was also a no. Okay? Okay, our next is 163 Alden Street. This is a complete, basically it's a raise and rebuild on this property they have existing variances, but they're looking for some more, mostly to be FEMA compliant. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
By Brian and a second.
Jane seconds.
Jane seconds. Discussion.
This house or this property with this existing house functions legally, it's there. A choice to tear it down and propose something that is enormous. And an FAR of 61.3%, I think, is just beyond reasonable, to use Brian's term.
And I actually have no argument with that. I mean, it's difficult based on the size of the lot. Anything that they build, more than likely, once it's FEMA compliant, is going to be big.
No, you just build it within the I mean, it's a great house. An architect can design a house that meets all the requirements. It doesn't have to be.
On this one, 61%, I agree, is outside the call of reason.
Right, sharpen the pencils, please.
Any other discussion on this one?
I'm just curious why a similar situation was approved at one time. It has nothing to do.
Similar was for coverage.
Okay.
I'm focusing on the FAR, which is the bulk.
The bulk.
Yeah. And bulk has to do with the proportion of the proposed structure to the size of the lot. And the reason, I just looked it up,
It's
FAR regulations date back 100 years because people were not happy with, giant properties overshadowing the street and overshadowing the neighbors. So that's why FAR regulations were developed. So this one, I think, is.
I mean, if this application came to us and said, we want to put a second story on, and they had and lift it up, because they do have a non-conforming lot, I think all of us would say yes to that. But I think what we're fearful of is they've gone so far over. Okay. If there's no more discussion, we will vote. Rachel?
Yes.
Right.
No.
Joe?
No.
Jane? No. And I'm also a no, that application was not approved. Okay, we are on to 67 Brookview Avenue. They are looking to add a shed. to an undersized lot. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Additions.
Excuse me, a shed and additions, I apologize. Okay, Brian, motions and James seconds.
Yes.
Did you, or
Yes,
did I
yes,
make
yes,
it?
I've already seconded.
Sorry.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion.
I have no problem with the addition, but I have to just point out and this came up last month, adding a shed because you've lost your basement, that's not a hardship that
But-
we need to address. I mean, it's like get rid of your stuff.
Last month's basement
Yeah.
was different than this one. Last month, it was an accessibility issue that really was not a property issue. This one, they lose it because of FEMA, and that's a whole other.
Last month was also.
Yeah, that was also FEMA.
Was it FEMA?
Yeah.
Yeah, but, so, so the issue here is,
Last month.
yeah, we had,
There were 2 sheds on the agenda.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
one was.
one was FEMA and one
I
was
just
not.
wanna, as we're talking about this, I don't think that's like, oh yeah, they need to put their stuff somewhere, so we have to grant them a variance for that. That's a separate issue. That's
So
not a hardship.
I don't disagree with you. However, I don't think that denying it because they're asking for a shed
I didn't say
is.
it's gonna deny it.
No, I know. I'm just saying, I don't think it's also, as much as it's not a reason for granting, it's not a reason for denying it. I think it's a fine use of the property. It's not impinging on anything. It's not causing anybody any harm or question or concern. And there was no, I put this on the record for as many people as it applies to, there was no argument from anyone anywhere that said we don't want it.
Anyway, there are legitimate hardships attached to this property.
Yes.
Regardless.
Okay, is we ready to vote? Rachel?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
And I'm also a yes, that variance is granted unanimously. Giving Tara a look so she hears me. Okay, number 6, we're going to 73 Partridge Lane. They're looking to construct a 1-story, 1-car.
Quaker Lane, aren't we?
We're on 5 Quaker Lane.
Oh, I'm sorry, 99 Quaker Lane. This is, they're looking to put on an addition on their home. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second. Okay, discussion.
So I'll do my usual spiel, but I think it was designed thoughtfully. I don't think it was designed to be outside of the character of the neighborhood or the comprehensive zoning plan. The hardships are real. It is a pre-existing non-conforming lot. It's undersized, the shape is a little funky, and it's an addition. Notwithstanding the, what's his name? Mr. Fabrizi's, I don't want to say well-meaning, and I don't want to say well-intentioned, but misunderstandings of our code. I think this is an addition, and I think it's a reasonable addition. I think it's good for the house.
Can I add something?
Of course. Add away.
We cannot make aesthetic judgments on these projects. We're only here to talk about zoning issues. So to say something looks good or it's the neighborhood, that's sort of irrelevant. That's all.
And also, I mean, as much as, everyone cares, it doesn't matter that it's for her dad.
No.
Okay, so I don't see any other discussion. Let us vote. Rachel?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
And I'm also a yes, this application is approved. Now, we're going to do 73 Partridge Lane, looking for a garage. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Brian, and a second.
Second.
Rachel, she wanted to get in there. Okay, discussion.
The easement exists as a recognized hardship in any of our deliberations, so that is legitimate. And where they put it, I think, is the only place they could put it. So.
Yeah, it was interesting because when you have an easement like this, it doesn't, it should add to your lot coverage, but it doesn't calculate like that. Like if they could add this back in, they wouldn't need this application because they have unusable pieces on their property. So, any other comments, questions on 73?
The only other thing is I took seriously their representation that they could have put a freestanding, an unattached garage, and then it wouldn't figure into some of the calculations that they need relief from.
Except it would have to be on top of the easement.
Well, no, I'm saying that's what
Right,
I'm
that's
saying.
why the easement comes
I
in.
took their arguments to heart that they couldn't do this. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, we are ready to vote on 73 Partridge Lane. Rachel?
I say yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, unanimous approval of the variance. Okay, we are going on to number 7, which is 12 Sugar Plum Lane. This is a ask after. I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
And a second.
Jane seconds.
Okay, discussion.
I think they would have come before us ahead of the build, that they realized this was a framing issue.
Right.
And so.
The fear is one day we're going to say no.
But we have to.
We won't.
We judge every application
Yeah,
on its
I
own merit.
totally agree.
We don't compare it to anything else.
But one day.
Well, we'll see.
Okay, any other discussion?
Yeah, I just will want to add that I've had my own experience with framers. We were putting an addition on our house a number of years ago, and my wife went home to lunch, and she said, "It's backwards." And they said, "No, it isn't." And she said, "Yes, it is. Let me show you the plans." And they, "Oh, yeah, it is backwards." It happens.
Okay. Okay, ready to vote. Rachel?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
And I'm also a yes, this application is waiver approved. Okay, so we're gonna do a little switches here.
Should I leave the room?
No, you should stay.
Do you want to just pull up a
I don't know if you need to switch. I think
Yeah,
we
you could, well, Brian should go
Stay where you
out.
are.
Yeah,
I'll just come sit over here.
All right. Go sit
Yeah,
over.
just pull up a chair, whatever you wanna do. And Jane's just not talking.
I'm gonna hide.
Don't look at her, okay? Okay, so our last application for discussion is 442 Zos Drive. They are looking for a coverage variance. Can I have a motion to approve?
Approve.
Rachel, and a second.
Second.
Okay, 10 seconds. Discussion.
I take Brian's representation about the topography. I know we don't have any record of it, but, I mean, we'll take it as what it is, that if it were a flatter lot, they would not need a porch, and then they wouldn't need the variance. So I take that at face value, and otherwise, it's a fine application, so. I wish it were better explained in the package, but we heard it verbally, and I'll accept that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's unfortunate, the topography, because that is the only reason this should be considered. Because
Yeah.
having a nonconformity now doesn't mean that you get an agree, because it's already one of the applicants, Brian said, well, it's 0.3 over now, so it's nonconforming. But making it worse doesn't mean we should grant the nonconforming, because he's going to 2.3. But if we agree on the topography, I think that is a reason to grant the variance. Is there any more discussion?
I took a look at the topography on the website, like on the
Yeah.
internet, like you could see
I
this,
looked
you
at
could
it
see
too.
the slope.
Definitely
So
a slope.
You can see it, it's apparent.
Yeah, it's like a little hill.
Good. Okay, so we're ready to vote? Okay, Rachel?
Yes.
Carol?
It's a tough one.
Yes.
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 And I'm a yes, the application is approved. Okay, before we close the hearing, is there anything under our new business anyone want to discuss? Okay, seeing none, hearing none.
Here.
Application is closed.
Thank you, sir.
Meeting is over.
Thank you all. for your
Good luck.
service.